Do you want to be an optimist? Are you an optimist? Are you a pessimist? I can tell you right now, I'm going to walk you through what you need to do to become an optimist forever. Forever. I'm going to share with you what I believe is the cornerstone of looking at everything in a much more positive light. You know, because you think to yourself, am I only looking at the things that I really like and truly believe in an optimistic way, and everything else I look at it in a pessimistic way? You've got to understand how you're viewing it and what is forcing you to view it, because there's no doubt your mind is creating whether you view something in a positive or negative way, and the balanced mind is going to guide you to being a much more optimistic individual. Welcome to Build with Rob. It is your boy, Rob Dyrdek. And look, at the end of this episode, I'm going to share with you a lot of the things that I have been pessimistic about. Because you're going to be like, whoa, not the Mr. Negative, no negative thoughts guy. How could he possibly ever have something negative to think about? And it's really interesting because being pessimistic for me does happen. And I'd like to share with you how it does happen. And no person is 100% optimistic about everything all the time. You know, and look, what is optimism, right? Like, what is optimism? By definition, it's hopefulness and confidence about the future or the successful outcome or something. You know what I mean? It's really, you're always looking out into the future and believing it's going to be better. That's really what it is. You know, if you're an optimist, you just believe what you're working on, what you're doing is going to be better in a future state. And a pessimist sees the world half empty, an optimist sees it half full. And, you know, a lot of times we push past a little word called realist, right? Which is, what is the actual reality of the situation, and what do you need to do to shift the situation, to turn it into a place of hopefulness that allows you to look out into the future and be an optimist about what may occur in the future, right? And think about this. You always make a decision on something and its probability or what it means to you or how much you believe it's going to happen or how you feel about it. Every time you're constantly judging every single aspect of your life, and your mind is basically creating the values inside the way that you think on whether or not you look at something in a positive or negative way. And you've got to think about your mind as being the culprit and what's actually shaping everything from the very beginning. Because think about what you think about. Where the mind goes, everything goes. And when you're pessimistic about things and being negative, and then you're being positive, you're attracting that energy into yourself, right? So when you're looking at something in a positive way, odds are things are going to go your way and happen to drive it in a positive direction. The same way when you're looking at it in a negative way, odds are you're going to compound those things and those negative things are going to happen to you, right? And to me, it goes back to this idea of, is your mind balanced? Is your mind in a place that it even has the ability to look at something in the future as positive and hopeful? Right? Because you got to think about, if your mind is swaying and constantly being pulled in all these different directions, if you're constantly dipping down into worrying about the future or dipping back and dwelling in the past, well, you're not in the energy and you're not in the action, you're not in the momentum. You are basically in the two places where you are going to be a pessimist. And then if you are living in the present, and you are either taking action and dealing with something from the past or creating a better future, you are in the energy and in the optimist mindset. You know, and so most people just think of it more from this lens of not where their mind is at, but just how they feel about these different sort of things. And again, why I say it's so important to think about your mind and how to keep it balanced and how to stay away from wishing or worrying or dwelling or being angry. Because if you keep landing on either of those sides, you know what it does. It basically draws down the energy, stops all the momentum, and then you look straight out into the future and you're like, never gonna work. Never gonna work. Why even try? It's always been like that, right? Boy, that pessimistic, man. And hey, look, it's not like everybody, again, is even the most positive people in the world. The most positive people in the world are lying if they don't become pessimistic from time to time. You got too many things going on in your life that you know are not working, that at some point you shift away from hopeful and you start looking at it in a negative light. Everybody's going to do it, but you've got to do something to stop yourself, to get the awareness that what you just did is going to create a compound effect of pulling yourself towards that negative outcome, and shift yourself back into the energy of what can you do to try to create hope back in it so you can begin to look at it from an optimist point of view, and look, when you think about, creating the future and that generating optimism, it's easy, right? Because if the balanced mind is using the present with purpose and either experiencing the moment, creating the future, or dealing with something that's happened, all energy, all present with purpose. And the easiest way to be an optimist is to continually create the future. It's easy. When you're creating the future, you get excited, you get the energy, you know the possibilities. And then when you're building a strategy to achieve a future possibility, what does it do? It creates the energy and builds optimism in you. And now when you talk about it, you're super optimistic about its outcome. You believe that it's possible. Now, if you have an idea and you don't believe it's possible and you just keep wishing it was real, and you're not actually taking any time putting energy into it and developing a plan, some probability, and creating some sort of milestone of it and moving forward towards it, and you just keep looking out and wishing, then you would say to yourself, I don't know, I doubt it could happen. Versus if you're just working on it becoming a reality. Think of what a difference that is. Think of what a difference that is as it relates to creating a better future for yourself and ultimately being an optimistic person, right? Because think about it. You have so much going on in your life. Your life is broken down into a handful of different segments between your life, work, and your health, and your friends and your family, and all these different sort of things that are meaningful to you. And you have a certain sort of way to judge each of them based off of the state that they are in. And when you are putting any energy into doing anything that you're creating a better future into, then you believe that whether it's your relationship, a hobby that you have, the career that you have, when you're working on making it better, man, you're positive about it. You are looking at it in that direction. So you have to look at if you want to be someone who isn't always has optimism in everything that they do, you must be creating that for yourself and thinking about how your mind is thinking about it, right? Not wishing, but taking the action and creating the strategy. And, when you think about, the past, think about the easiest way to dip down into pessimism is when something happens to you and then now you just start to blame and be like, oh, it's never going to change. You had your expectations mismanaged because you really thought for your company, this product was going to be it, and you launched it and nobody buys it. And now you're now you dump back in, and now you're in the dwelling mindset. And what are you doing? You're blaming everybody. You're just in this, it's never going to be, it's the industry. It's if only the economy, right? And again, when you sit off in that zone from the past perspective of a balanced mind. When you fall out of being past present and like, hey, I've learned what happened here. The launch of this product didn't work. What do I need to do to try to get energy back into it? Even just like thinking through that lens and like pushing everything and what do we got to do and what do we see in the data and what opportunity can we change? What can we pivot? That energy is back in that, hey, we're optimistic that we can fix this. Versus like, man, you let your mind dip down into dwell and worry or wish that it was different or worry that this is really going to like ruin the company. You feel the pain in it. It's really funny. Like even as I talk it out and speak it, my energy and my whole body shifts. Even when I start talking about the ideas of what you can do in the past, present to like add energy back into it, add the action to add the hopefulness back into it, I can feel it. In what I'm trying to like get people to really think about is if you want to be an optimistic person, that you have to you must continually be putting energy into moving things forward into a hopeful place on an ongoing basis. That's really the main thing that you have to be doing, as opposed to faking it. Like what do we think about someone that's overly optimistic as like they're just so positive about everything, and it's like, that's like, it's not my life. And then it's like, that's the pessimistic person would just be like, it's not me. Like life is just a government. Yeah, the way they're making cars now. I don't even, just attribute nothing to nothing. You know what I mean? You could just be negative about anything. But it is an issue with, your new electric Tesla. The battery keeps running out and you keep running out of gas because you're not, running out of gas, running out of electricity because you don't have time to charge it. And then you've been late for work twice and you blame the modern car. You know what I mean? Like that's really when that pessimist mind just ends up compounding into every single aspect of your life. And again, you want to be optimistic, you have to create that energy in your entire life, right? And if you have that energy in more areas than you don't, then your overall life is going to feel positive and you're going to be more optimistic about everything. But if you let anything sit back and sit in its state that's not helping, leading you to a better future, you're going to start to look at it in a negative way. And it's the hardest one to overcome because it's it's a problem that just happened. It's a mismanaged expectation. It is something that's made you angry. It's something that's disappointed you. It's something that's made you sad. These are all of these things that pull your mind down into being angry or dwelling. You have to recognize it. I'm not saying you don't burn it off. For me, I still have to burn off expectations when my expectations are mismanaged. Like I got to burn it off for a little bit before I shift back into adding energy into problem solving. But you got to get there. You got to get there. And if you bounce off of mismanaged expectations and negative or disappointment straight into action, straight into rectifying and creating some energy in it, bam, you just added hope to it just like that. And just like that, you're feeling positive about it. And now you push forward. You see a light at the end of the tunnel of a better outcome. You just took something that you were looking at in a negative light, and by just trying to add energy to it and put action to it, drove it to a hopeful place that even though it's still bad, you're going to look at in a positive light. And be optimistic that in the future, you're going to learn from this, change, evolve, and still be towards your path of a better future. That's just how you look at it, and again, when you think of the mind's carrying it all. The mind's carrying it all. And you want to be using the present with purpose and always be feeling when you dip off into worrying or wishing or dwelling. right? Because when you think about being in the present, you really, it's very hard to like land in the present and be in a place that you're not optimistic about, right? Like if you have a job you hate and you're here again miserable, you're going to be not happy about your job and not excited about the future ever coming back here. You're going to be in a state of sadness, and you're going to be pessimistic about who works there, the job, the company, every last thing. But that is still based off of the decision that led to this present moment in time. The present is the truth of whether you were right about being a pessimist or an optimist. That's the present's the truth. And you're designing the present with the intent of getting there and then being hopeful about the future. And again, if you get there and you're not, you've got to make that adjustment. You've got to put the energy into changing what has led to this present moment that even has you in this negative place. And being positive about everything just isn't realistic. But you could be positive about most things. And again, you're taking most of this as a lesson as you go. Why am I thinking about this in a negative way? And what can I do to change it? And I just think when you really push to understand how you think and continuously be trying to understand all the things that pull your mind out of being in that present moment, that you're either creating the future, rectifying the past, or entirely experiencing the moment, and avoiding wishing or worrying or dwelling or being angry. If you can understand that that's going to be based off of the way that you've designed your time and your life that led to this present moment, and then if you are in the present moment and you are negative, you got a bad design. You got a bad design. If you are in the present moment and you are not hopeful about the future and enjoying this moment in time, you have designed the time and your life in a bad way. And if that happens on big scales, relationships, jobs, like, these things that are meaningful uses of your time and who you are, it is so clear that you have to change those. Those are the things that you have got to change in order to get to a place that you are going to be more positive than negative and be in an optimistic mindset in most of your life. And even for me, I'm so hyper aware of it, and for the most part, I'm so future focused that I'm just, even when something lands on me that I don't like, it's really okay. Before I even have time to even get overly negative about it, I put the action in to change it, but not always, not always. And for me, over the last couple years, the process that I have gone through of, building and designing and trying to get forever estates done, there were just numerous times throughout this process that I let the whole thing die and I landed in that negative zone. I landed in I don't think this thing's ever going to get built. I said that about Forever Estates like a year and a half ago when I was stuck with the city and trying to get permits and they had sent it to the city attorney's office. It was basically this is never going to get built. And I sat down in that space of saying to the universe, which is just, you might as well be talking to the universe and driving this thing never to be happen the moment you say, I just don't think it's ever going to happen. And even when I say it again right now, it seems preposterous that I even allowed myself to sit in that zone for so long. But I then took the action. What are all the things that I can do to actually change this and drive this, find a solution, and then put it back into this positive space, which I did, and It happens to me a lot with portfolio companies where like the portfolio company growth didn't happen as I expected. And, rather than like spend the time and energy to jump in and really start supporting with strategy and how do we evolve this to get this into a better place, man, I will dump down in and be like, I just don't even think this thing's ever going to work. Yet I put all this time and energy and built this entire company with an individual and have a shared vision and work so hard and put so much money into it, but we'll get to a place that I'm willing to allow it to be negative, and I'm getting better and better at catching myself from allowing that to ever even stick. When I feel it, I try to bounce off of it. And then I try to go to I always try to push towards how do I simplify it? How do we go into the strengths of the company, the founder, what's happening at the company, and make a change swiftly that can have a longer impact, that can avoid this happening in the future. These are still these things that I become negative about. Even in my journey of healing my body, I spent so many years that at certain points, I was just like, man, my body's going to be this messed up forever. And even when I say it, boy, you're lucky you're not. Because when you land in that state where you stop taking action and you feel more hopeless and now you're dwelling on, I just wish for me, my body was so messed up. I was regretting stunts that I did. I was regretting rails I skated. I was judging myself on the way that I would jump downstairs. I was like, why did you have to jump with one leg and land with one foot? You ruined one side of your body. That's how deep I was when I was in the dark throes of not thinking I was going to be able to heal my body from all of the injuries that I had done to myself over my skateboarding career. But man, I just pushed through with action and energy and created new plans, met new doctors, continued to elevate and evolve my understanding of the body and push through to healing myself. But many times, even if you get pulled into that mindset, the more consistent you are with pushing your mind back to a place of action, balancing that mind, and then focusing on how to put energy and momentum and hope back into whatever you're doing in your life, man, then there's optimism. And if you just look at everything in your life that you're not hopeful about or looking in a positive light and just push that energy into it, use that mind share to find hopefulness, you are going to become an optimistic person. And if you don't, and more things are negative than positive, and you just allow them to sit there and just say, hey, it is what it is. It is what it is, Gave out my best years doing 5-0 grinds on rails. Now I can't run with my kids because my hip's all wonky. Then that's what you're going to be. And then you're just going to attract that until you can't get off the couch at 84. Then you're extra sad. Then you're really blaming those 5-0 grinds back in 02. But the truth is, you have the ability to be a happy, optimistic person in almost all aspects of your life. But you've got to be aware of how you're thinking, what you're thinking about, and what you actually need to do just to drive energy and hope into it so that you believe there's a better future on the horizon. Going to give you the energy, give you the feeling, and make you a happier person. And you got it. You got it because you're meant to be happy. We're all meant to be happy. We just got to sift through the framework and tune ourselves to happiness. Until next time, always be looking forward, always be strategizing, and always be pushing. See it, believe it, do it.